Hello everyone, today I'm doing a video for you about the 5 most frequently asked questions that I get from people who are thinking of moving to Arizona from out of state. So if you've ever thought of moving to Arizona, and particularly northern Arizona, stay tuned because you're going to want to hear this video. You're going to want to hear what people are asking about when moving to the state of Arizona. The channel is Living in Northern Arizona, where I'll teach you everything you might want to know about living in the state of Arizona. The northern half of the state, that is, would be Flagstaff, Sedona, Verde Valley, Prescott. Do me a favor, if you are just landing on this channel for the first time, if you would hit the like button, subscribe button, and the notification bell. That will help other people who are looking for this type of information to find the channel, to find this video, and to get the information they're needing if they're thinking about moving to Arizona. My name's Dawn Dickinson. I sell real estate in the northern half of the state, Flagstaff, Sedona, Verde Valley, Prescott. If you ever have a question about real estate, or if you're thinking of moving here and like a list of properties for sale, go ahead and do what many people have done. Reach out and give me a phone call, text, email. My information, my contact information is always in the description below the videos, or you can, same place in the description below in the videos, you can get to my website, which will let you schedule a Zoom call or a 30-minute phone call, and we can talk about it, decide if it's something that you might want to do, or rule it out, and then you won't be thinking about it anymore. So my best clients come from YouTube, so if you have any kind of questions, feel free to give me a call, and I'm going to tell you the 5 most frequently asked questions for people moving into the state. So the first thing people often ask was, hey, real estate is cheap in Arizona, right? I'm looking to buy about 10 acres of land and a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Is there anything available for me in northern Arizona? And I'm sorry to say the answer is probably going to be no. Now, I don't want to say you can't get anything like that. You can't get a large plot of land and some type of a home on it, but you would likely be very far out of town, someplace like Seligman or Ash Fork, or maybe even Winslow, where you will have 10 acres with no utilities, no water, no electricity, no septic, sewer, and probably no trees or bushes, just way out in the middle of nowhere, maybe a manufactured home. For the most part, unfortunately, real estate in Arizona has gotten very expensive, and I'm going to run you through some prices just so you can get a little bit of idea of what stuff costs. I'm going to give you the average sales price for some of the northern Arizona towns. For instance, Flagstaff, so we're in fall 2022, last available data are from September. So September average sales price in Flagstaff was $644,000. That is actually down a little bit since this time last year, only about 1%. Average sales price in Sedona, about $902,000, which is up teeny tiny bit from this time last year. Now remember, the market peaked in Arizona probably March, April, May. So from September it had gone up, and now it's starting to come down a tiny bit. Prices I'm talking about. Cornville, $597,000 average sales price. Prescott, $678,000 average sales price. Phoenix, I'm going to compare it now to Phoenix because usually homes in the valley are a little bit cheaper. Phoenix average sales price $495,000 in September 2022, and Scottsdale was $977,000, which is, Scottsdale's kind of a high price area, as is Sedona. So Sedona $902,000, Scottsdale $977,000. I often say that Sedona prices are similar to Scottsdale if you're trying to compare with the prices in the valley. So again, prices of real estate in Arizona, it's gotten quite expensive. Now if you're from California or New York, you might not think it's so much, but if you're coming from the Midwest, like Oklahoma or Iowa or Tennessee, you might get sticker shock trying to move to Arizona. Prices have gotten high, and who knows if they'll stay. People are predicting that they will stay high, and some are predicting they will come down slightly, and some people think it's gonna crash. So I can't tell you what's going to happen. I can just tell you that's how the home prices are right now. It's no longer cheap to live in Arizona. So question number 2, is it still the Wild West here in Arizona? And when I get that question, I kind of chuckle. I want to say yes and no. So Of course, if you're talking about Phoenix, Phoenix has gotten very populated. I would compare Phoenix to little Los Angeles, except it doesn't have the nice beachfront property or the nice summer weather. Tucson probably is the most Wild West of the state that's left, but here in northern half of Arizona, you have a lot of homes where you can have horses, goats, cattle, chickens, and so you do kind of get that little bit of a feel of the Wild West because you've got wide open spaces in some of the homes here. So you will still find a lot of rural communities here in northern Arizona, which might make you feel a little bit like the Wild West. Another thing is a lot of people do carry guns. A lot of people will carry them on their hip in the the stores. Not like when I was a kid, I used to see people with the gun on their hip all the time. But you will see that. Some people will carry it in their purse or on their person. Now in Arizona, you probably see less on people's hips because now in Arizona we have, you're able to carry concealed, whereas back in my youth you couldn't carry concealed, and in about the 1990s you were able to carry concealed with the concealed weapon permit, which some people still have, but you don't even need the concealed weapon permit. So if you're scared of guns, this might not be the place for you, but in that aspect it is a little bit still like the Wild Wild West. We're going to have some exceptions to the Wild West field. For instance, Flagstaff. Flagstaff is a high elevation town. It's got pine trees and snow. It's a college town. It's also a ski town. So it feels, again, if you're thinking of the mountains in the west, like the Rocky Mountains, it feels a little bit like that, but not the Wild West cowboy town. Sedona, a little more deserty, but here it's more the spiritual mecca of the country. And you got a lot of artists, art galleries, and then you have Jerome, for instance, is an old ghost town, mining town. Still has that western feel, but there's a lot of restaurants and artist stuff, and an old mining town. So those three towns, Flagstaff, Sedona, Jerome, still very western, but a lot of tourists in these towns, so it doesn't really give the old west feel. Some people might think so, but yeah, not so much the Wild West, although you will find that in northern Arizona if that's what you're looking for. Okay, question number 3. Arizona's a desert, right? It's hot everywhere, is that right? And that's not exactly true. So, especially in northern Arizona has higher elevations, with exceptions of the cities that lie on the Colorado River border, which would be like Laughlin, Bullhead City, Lake Havasu City. Those are still very hot climate because the elevation is lower. Also at the north you have Page, which is the town that is right by Lake Powell. Again, not as hot as Phoenix, but it's still kind of warm in Page. The elevation has come down a bit, but now a lot of the places up here, starting at, when I say north, I usually mean Cordes Junction, Cordes Lakes and above. So Cordes Lakes, maybe 3,000 foot elevation. Prescott, about 5,000 elevation. Payson, 5,000 elevation. Sedona, 4,000, 4,500. And Flagstaff, 7,000 elevation. So with that higher elevation, you get cooler temperatures. And I would say Flagstaff in the summertime, a lot of time it's in the 80s. In the wintertime, the high temperature might be in the 40s, overnight low in the winter, could get in the teens. It can get lower than that. It can get below 0, but that's Flagstaff temperature. And here in Sedona, again, in the summertime, 90s, low 100s, and the wintertime, around the 30s. So it is not the hot climate in northern Arizona that you might stereotype when you think of desert. Now, of course, on the Colorado border, like Havasu City, for instance, I think once got up to 128 degrees, so it does get very hot on the border towns. So question number 4, it doesn't snow in Arizona, is that right? Well, that's not exactly right. Now, down in the low elevations, it does occasionally snow. Very, very rare does that happen. But in northern half of the state, and even in like Mount Lemmon and Tucson, you will get some snow. Now, Flagstaff averages about 102 inches of snowfall every single year. Now, remember, Flagstaff is at 7,000 foot elevation. It's in the mountains. It has the most snow out of any city in the state of Arizona. Now, if you want to think Prescott, for instance, Prescott is about 5,000 foot elevation, gets about 12.5 inches of snow every year. Payson, about 15 inches of snow. And Sedona, about 10.5, 11 inches of snow. And then if you want to consider Heber-Overgaard. Now, Heber-Overgaard is in the White Mountains on the eastern part of the state, and while it is north, I consider that eastern Arizona, although I do occasionally sell in Heber-Overgaard because the prices in Heber-Overgaard are very, very good. Heber-Overgaard will get about 28 inches of snow every single year. Question number 5, how are the schools in northern Arizona? Well, I'm going to be honest here, I have a hard time answering that question because both of my kids went to school when I lived in Phoenix, when I lived in Ahwatukee, and they went to Kyrene School District and then Tempe Union High School District. So it was the Phoenix Tempe High School District. Those are very good schools. The Kyrene School District and I think Tempe Union are an A-rated school. So hard for me to answer because I don't have experience sending my kids. But what I can tell you is, say in Sedona, so this is where I live primarily, people will ask me about schools, there are very few kids that live in Sedona. There are less than 1,000 kids enrolled in the Sedona school system. So you got like 990 something kids. The Sedona schools don't really rate very well when you go to a site like niche.com. That's where I go to look at all the school information and find out about the schools. So Sedona schools don't really rate very well, except they do have a very favorable student to teacher ratio. I think like 15 kids to every one teacher, which is good. However, Sedona Charter School rates very well. So if you'd rather, instead of putting them in like the Red Rock High School, I think it is, if you'd rather put them in the Sedona Charter School instead of the regular Sedona schools, the charter school, Sedona Charter School, rates very, very well. Now, Flagstaff has very good schools. When I look them up, they are getting an A-, B+B rating for, and there are a lot of school choices in Flagstaff. Same thing with the Prescott. Schools are getting about a B, B-. Cottonwood, same thing, B rated schools. So that's how I encourage you, if you're looking for schools. I do report on them a little, but you could go to a website like niche.com, like marketing niche, or niche.com, and get school information. It's very good because it goes into detail about schools. Now, a couple things I want to mention. A lot of the schools, a lot of the towns have BASIS, which is like a college preparatory charter school. Okay, now if you have an excelling student who would like to go to a college preparatory type charter school, BASIS has a campus in most of the major cities in Arizona. So there's BASIS Flagstaff, BASIS Prescott, probably more of them up here than just those two. And in the valley, of course, there's BASIS Scottsdale, BASIS Chandler, BASIS Ahwatukee. And I just want to say one thing about BASIS. If you've got a very intelligent kid who's very driven, BASIS could be a great way for them to get a head start in their academic career. But if you have a child with autism, for example, my child went to BASIS Ahwatukee in 8th grade, and it was an absolutely nightmarish experience. So, yeah, any of you, the only people that are going to relate to me is people who have a child with a disability or a child with autism, but the BASIS school really courted me to, oh yes, bring your child with autism to BASIS. We're great with kids with autism, and I think that was a complete lie. They like to have the disability kids. I think they get more money if they're, for each child with disability they get there. So they want the kids there, but then they were terrible. They were unaccommodating. They said that my kid was mouthing off to the teachers when he's an autistic kid. They don't even know how to mouth off. It just comes out of their mouth. He had a 504. Of course, only people that have a child with a disability will understand a 504, but that is a written agreement you have with the school for any extra provisions your child might need because the child has a disability. And BASIS Ahwatukee was refusing to comply with this list that we created together, and I thought I was going to have to hire a lawyer and sue the school. So again, if you have a normal academically achieving child, any of the BASIS schools that are northern Arizona or any of Arizona schools, it could be a good fit for them, but just beware if you have a child with a disability. I would not recommend the BASIS charter school system. And the last thing on the school list is northern Arizona. So if you have a child wanting to go to college, say you're out of state and your kid wants to go to one of the Arizona colleges, the three basic ones, Northern Arizona University, Arizona State University, and University of Arizona. I myself have gone to both Arizona State University and Northern Arizona. I have degrees from both campuses. I enjoyed Northern Arizona greatly, even more so than Arizona State University. I would recommend Northern Arizona University above the three. Of course, that's from my own experience. Now, my daughter goes to University of Arizona. Of course, University of Arizona has the advantage of having a medical college. So if you have a child wanting to get a medical degree, I would recommend University of Arizona. Now, there are other things. If you have a child wanting to get a medical degree, there is Midwestern University on the west side of Phoenix. Now, Midwestern is a very good university for medicine. It is actually an osteopathic school. I don't know if I said that right. Osteopathic school of medicine. And the problem, of course, with Midwestern is it's a private college. Tuition is very, very expensive. So if you're trying to balance between should I go to Midwestern or should I go to U of A, I would pick U of A, unless, of course, you are very tend to want to prefer the osteopathic school. So again, that's what Midwestern has. It's got the School of Osteopathic Medicine. I normally can say that, but I can't today. So anyhow, NAU, getting back to my original point, NAU is a great school in Northern Arizona. So that's it. That is the top 5 questions that I get for people who are moving out of state or thinking of moving out of state to Arizona. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up. Think about subscribing and hitting the notification bell. My name's Dawn Dickinson. I post videos here on this channel every single week. I sell real estate here, so if you're thinking of buying a place or just want a list of properties to see how much they go for, certainly feel free to give me a text, a call, an email, and I will get back to you. Like I say, I post videos here every single week, so I hope you come back. I hope to see you again here next week.